to The Truth in This Art, your source for conversations at the intersection of arts, culture, and community. I am your host, Rob Lee. Today, I am super excited to welcome an accomplished theater artist with performances spanning off-Broadway, regional theater, and film. She's currently portraying Margaret in POTUS, or Behind Every Great Dumbass Are 7 Women Trying to Keep Him Alive at the Everyman Theatre in Baltimore. And we'll be discussing her acting journey and a bit of her role in POTUS. Please welcome Chinai Routte. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rob. Oh, that's so kind of you.
Thank you for making time. Thank you for being able to see the show before you even talk about it, right? Being able to see the show this past Friday. Thank you for the performance. And going into sort of having these really busy weeks and the busy school stuff and all the stuff I was sharing a little bit before we got started, It was a really cool highlight to wrap up the week, to get some laughs in and just see art in the city, so that was good.
Yeah. It feels good to give it to you guys. Friday, like all of our audiences have been really remarkable, and all of our audiences have been really remarkable. Friday, of course, was the highlight because it was opening night. So thank you for being there. Thank you for bringing your energy to the space.
Absolutely. It's great. And I buried the lead a little bit, but let's go backwards a little bit. And
Sure.
If you could, for the folks that are undipped and unfamiliar, could you introduce yourself and share a bit about your work?
Yeah, so I'm Chinai Routte, you all. Born and raised part of my life right here in Baltimore, Maryland, and lived the other part of my formative years in Warner Robins, Georgia. People are probably like, where is that? It's centrally located in the state. And we got there due to my mother being in the Air Force. So it's a military installation there. And I picked up my love for acting probably as a teenager, right? As a teenager, you're trying to figure out what you want to do, how you want to express yourself. And it was sort of an opportunity for me to escape all the crazy stuff happening. And so I spent most of my career on stage, hitting the regions, working a few world premieres under my belt, and have had the privilege also to be in some print work, some commercials, what they're calling now vertical media, and and some films. So I've been able to stretch quite a bit over, a few decades.
No, that's great. Thank you. And you're right in that point of sort of those years, like the sort of teenage years. I look at, I'll name one of the Baltimore high schools. I know we joked about that before we got started, but I look back on my time at City College in high school in Baltimore, and trying to figure out what the thing was going to be. I was taking a few drama classes, and I was like, "Is that the thing?" And I was like, "I'm 6'4". I'm kind of just all over the place, and everybody's short, so it's just like, we gotta figure out how to frame you. Where does your body go?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can be a tree. It's fine. We can be plays. Just stretch out.
You can take up space.
But I think the thing that kind of caught me was audio. Early on was recording conversations and really trying to put people onto my colleagues, my classmates. So that's where some of those roots are at, really. So I think your point there is really, really, really salient.
I'm telling you, as a teenager, when we moved from Baltimore to Georgia, it was a very strange time in my life. And so you're trying to find groundedness wherever you can, a place where you can feel like yourself or begin to understand who you are as a human. And as a teenager, you're trying to figure out if the things you're thinking about are really the things you love and who you are. And so I was trying to find a space where I can evolve safely. And it was, in high school, what was my first role? Eveline in The Wiz.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So in looking back, and I appreciate that, because sometimes you let people cook, you get those answers that you weren't even expecting. And and I as I think back again about sort of my time around that, I remember had a buddy who put me on to Kevin Smith, like Clerks, Mallrats, all of that stuff, and he was doing speaking gigs at colleges.
Mhm.
And eventually, those speaking gigs that he was doing would later turn into a podcast that he's done. And that's one of the reasons I got into podcasting. But I had a longer relationship than podcasting with this dude just speaking in front of people. And that was something for me. Almost was an audience member. So thinking back with this concept of being an audience member, could you share a performance that maybe blew you away? You're like, I want to do that. I want to be on stage. I want to act as an audience member.
It literally, as you ask this question, the image pops into my head very clearly. It was probably 96, 97. Seven Guitars by August Wilson at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, Georgia.
Really?
Yes. I had never seen so many people who look like me on one grand stage at one time and speaking things that sound familiar to my family, okay? And beautiful people, right? And moving gracefully across the stage made me feel like I was in what they were talking about. I was so drawn in, my mouth was on the floor. And we were in a small group doing something cultural, but it was that moment that it shifted my life forever. And there was a woman in the show that I was really, really drawn to and had the privilege to work with her some years later. She was the director and I was the actor. So Seven Guitars is already like a fantastic piece of theater. And if you haven't seen it, I think Baltimore is doing all of August Wilson's canon. So if you haven't seen it, your audience must go find it, go read it, go see it. It is an incredible piece of art and it really changed my life.
That is great to hear, and I'm definitely going to seek it out. I might be wink aware of from a media perspective. Hey, Rob, the go-to
Mhm.
guy. So that's great, and definitely
Excellent.
on my radar. And thank you for that. I think getting sort of a lot of times we get these interviews and it's just tell me about your work, tell me about this specific thing. But I think it's a lot of energy and a lot of worth in going back and kind of understanding what maybe led the person to this, what maybe
Yes.
forms how they go about it, the thinking that goes into it.
Yeah.
So I got this next question. You were touching on a little bit about sort of like the journey, and we're talking about off Broadway, regional theater, film experience, those verticals you mentioned as well. When you think about it, is there like a key lesson during that journey regarding like acting that maybe took you from being a good actor to a great actor, or from a great actor to an excellent actor?
Yeah, there have been a lot of lessons, Rob, over the years, but I'd love to share with you something that I learned this year. Um, as an actor, we spend a lot of time wondering if we're good enough. We spend a lot of time in self-doubt sometimes and second guessing ourselves. And this year I learned how to show up and show out, right? So I'm on a set, and I believe it was the one of the first films I did this year, and I was really coming from that space of, the theater space where a director comes in and they really have a complete vision of the world that we'll create together. And I've had the fortune of working with some incredibly collaborative directors, right? And so I'm in this mind of like, okay, as a stage actor, I show up as my character, and I also have to show up flexible so that if there is some things that I'm not considering about my character, the other characters, the director will help guide me in that space. When I showed up on the film set, the director was really focused on capturing the image of the film.
Yeah.
And it's a bit different to me than just the world of a stage play, but it's like, what does that picture look like? And how can we get this image to reflect what will happen frames from now, right? And this director did not direct me in the sense of like, this is what you need to do. This is who you are, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, you auditioned, we hired you,
Yeah.
do what you do,
Yeah.
show up and do that thing. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, do you, Chinai? And it was like, it was something very simple, Rob, but
Yeah.
it was transformative for me because I didn't have to rely on someone else to tell me that you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I showed up, I was hired, and I did what I was supposed to do. And as an actor, sometimes you know, let me liken it to people working in the 9 to 5, right? So you get hired to do that job, you do that job, and then you get promoted, right? So when you're an actor, you don't necessarily follow that kind of track, and so you have to really do your self promotion. You have to be strategic about how you're going to move through this business,
Yeah.
and so being your authentic self, knowing who you are and whose you are, and what you bring to the table is going to serve you, whether you're on stage or whether you're in front of a camera on a film set, or if you're on a TV episode or series, showing up as your authentic self, trusting that you got the goods.
Yeah.
They hired you for a reason. And to do what you know you're supposed to do. Everybody won't be the same director, and being flexible and malleable in that way also helps you to navigate, as well as being professional, showing up on time, knowing your lines, etc. Also kind of shifts the game. But for me, that was like, oh, right. And some might think that, oh, you've been in the game for a while and you should already know those things. But I tell you, I'm learning something new about myself
Yeah.
as I grow every year. And I think we all should be learning more and more about ourselves as we continue to grow. And that was really a pivotal moment career-wise for me, because now when I show up to a space, I'm not wondering if it's okay. I'm not wondering if I'm supposed to be there. I'm clear that I'm supposed to be there, and I know what I've been hired to do.
That's that's great. That's so important. I see how it works, and I can apply it to what I do in this podcast thing. And I'll share this before I move into some questions about POTUS. But so I had this opportunity. It was a guest that I had on who does a lot of murals in and around Baltimore, and interviewed him
A
about
lot of beautiful ones here too.
absolutely. He does the love murals, and yeah, Michael Owen. So
Oh, wow.
I had a chance to interview his son. I mean, I had a chance to work with his son. His son was making his first two like student films. He asked me to be.
Man.
So we do it, and the first one, I was like, "So what am I doing?" And I'm just asking those questions and coming in there with this sort of sense of like, I don't know if I'm gonna, blah blah blah. And I was like, "Why'd you pick me?" And I kind of got what he was going for after he's like breaking it down. He's a new filmmaker, and he wrote out sort of what he had in mind for me to play based on his dad's interaction with me. And he's like, "Oh yeah, he wrote this based on you did this podcast with him, so this is literally you. I tried to capture you." And he was like, "Just be you." And I was like, "How do I be me?" And I was doing that. And we did a few takes, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. I want to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
So we did it. It went well. It was about like comics, and it was very much aligned to the Kevin Smith thing. I don't know how the kid knew, but it was definitely there, right? So, it's like that was like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. He asked me to come back to reprise my role.
Come on, rehire.
He was like, "Do you still have the same hoodie? I want it to look like you've not progressed much in your career, like shop clerk." And I'm still with the same thing, but I got it a bit quicker. And I had to tell myself, I was like, "Oh, he literally hired me to play me." I was like, "So you're here, you're good enough. You're doing this for something that's very foreign to me." So I don't know, that's just what popped in my head as you were describing.
Well, Rob, I should also share with you that my career has been rooted in mostly stage productions.
Yeah.
It is only this year that I've really been pursuing film. So I wanted to make that clear, like, this is a new turn for me in my career and sort of a new pursuit. And so learning these things is part of this journey for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like it seems these items seem kind of similar. Like, oh, acting's acting. It's like, no, this is different. And those things that present themselves when I do a podcast and when I'm interviewing different people, I'm like, oh, I hope they think I'm interested. It's like the beginning of, I feel like it's a Richard Pryor album. I hope they think I'm fun. I hope they think I'm interested.
Yeah.
That's the vibe that I feel all the time. But eventually, yeah.
But you are. It's like you have to know why you're showing up to do this that you love to do, and trust that the people who need it, the people who desire it, the people who you're doing this for will find it, are coming, are here, and are going to soak it all up. And that's the thing that I'm holding on to and trusting in everything that I'm doing. Also, I'm having the time of my life, and it seems like you're having the time of your life too.
100%. And thank you. That's a really good distinction. So let's shift a little bit because I want to talk about, like it's still top of mind right now. I was making references all weekend rather, to POTUS. So let's talk a little bit about.
Let's get into it.
So for folks that are undipped and haven't gone, they should be going. They should be going very soon.
Y'all need to get out there.
So give us a little bit about like what is this production about, and what drew you to this production, and specifically, your approach to playing Margaret within this production.
So I
know it's like 3 parts there.
Yeah. I'm gonna just jump in where I can, and
Please.
maybe we'll circle back if we need to. So I got the script. And no. I had first heard about it when it was at another theater, and I was like, oh, this sounds like the kind of comedy I want to do. And it's a dream of mine to exist in more comedic spaces. I am pretty silly at the house, and I'd like to live in that truth outside of the house a bit more. And so POTUS came across my desk like laugh out loud, hilarious when I'm reading it. Selina Fillinger knew what she was doing when she wrote this script, man. And so I got this incredible opportunity to audition at Everyman, which is a plus because it's right at home. And I'd worked at Everyman Theatre 12 years ago. So this, is like a homecoming for me, being at the theater, being able to do a thing that I've wanted to do, and stretch in so much with POTUS. And Margaret is the first lady, y'all. I'm talking to your audience now. Margaret is the first lady, y'all, in POTUS. Or 7 women, trying to keep a dumbass alive. And POTUS is this political satire, really talking about a lot of social, political themes that we don't shake a finger at.
Sure.
We just talk about, right? And one of the biggest ones is gender equality, right? Mm-hmm. And Margaret is the first lady to POTUS. And I am really working at playing her on the edge of things. Yeah. Margaret is, this well-educated, fierce, and confident woman, right? But she is on the edge of a breakdown or breakthrough. And Margaret absolutely is capable of running the country herself, being in the high office. Instead, as we find a lot of times with women, we're having to box ourselves in order to prop up others, right? We're having to, our accomplishments and who we are is consistently marginalized. We're having to, fight through the glass ceiling and having to prove ourselves everywhere we go. And in this particular farce, these women are all faced with how to stop doing that.
Yeah.
You know, what is the moment, or what are the things that lead to the moment that shifts it for us? And I have to say this, I don't even know what you're going to ask me next, Rob, but we feel quite privileged to be doing this play during this political season.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it could not have been planned better. Like, we start like 2 weeks before rehearsal was one way. Then
Yeah.
when we show up into the rehearsal room, new things are happening.
Absolutely. And, I think every detail is there. And there's even these moments in the production that I really, really, I laugh at a lot because it's a version of something that I've said, and that it's not the same thing, but it's more like kind of looking to the audience. It's like, oh, well, maybe you should be in this role. That's the eternal question. And, why aren't you doing this? And that's the thing. Like
Quotables.
when I'm sort of doing this, they're like, why didn't someone ever approach you to do this? I was like, I don't know. Maybe you should ask them. Their eternal question.
It's the eternal question.
And I love that, and I enjoy comedy, right? I have this because I work with an improv group, and I ask this question on occasion of like, who's allowed to be funny and what's allowed to be funny these days. And, the production starts off real strong. I was like,
Yes.
this is literally like the first line. And I'm telling my partner about it. She's like, oh, this is where we're going.
And I'm trying so hard. No spoiler alerts, right? We want the people to come, because I really want to go so deep with you, Rob, because it's like, is it a sucker punch or is it just in your face? Right? Maybe I should ask you, did you feel sucker punched, or how did you feel with the, the first line of the play?
It was a little bit of a sucker punch. I was not expecting. I was like, oh, so this is where we're at. And
this is where we at.
And then once I'm kind of in it as an audience member, absorbing, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I know where we're going now. I know that this is what it is. So I'm like, oh, because I've been to a few productions there at Everyman, and this was very different from the previous productions, and all enjoyable, obviously. But this one was just like, oh, there's language here. This is how I talk, and outside of this podcast glasses guy, but this is how I talk, and I'm like, all right. I was like, if I can hear a little bit more of this. I was like, oh, they're talking about that. We have an injury that requires a donut to be sat on that's being referenced, and I was like, I've said this in conversation recently. So please believe I'm having a great time, and I see the audience as well.
Yeah.
And so for you being on stage, being in your role, and working with your castmates and the crew, talk about that feeling of being on stage and getting those when something hits, when it hits the way that you're like, all right, we know we rehearsed this worked really well, but it's hitting right now.
It's so first of all, I want to say that the 6 women that I work with are incredible, like hands down, right? And every night I go onto the stage having the time of my life, because I know I'm working with 6 women who are incredibly talented and that I trust. We have fostered, this incredible space where we're looking out for each other, we're holding each other up, and we all have the same goal in mind, right? We want to get this story told and get it told well, right? And so watching the audience absorb our text, we want to be so precise that every joke lands with them. And so we want to give them the comic relief that they don't even know that they're coming for. And we also pursue sort of like, we have a little bit of joy, not a little bit, we have a lot of joy when the audiences hear what we're saying, or they've remembered something that happened earlier in the play and the payoff happens later.
Yes. And
we hear audible, responses. Like, what was that? Last night, I heard "oh, okay" from an audience member. And those kind of things, thank God I'm a professional and I don't break, right? But there are these moments that well in me like, oh, sis, yes, come on, high five. It is a moment of joy when the audience gets it, when they feel it. It's also really, really satisfying when we have audience members who come in with maybe a different perspective. They don't know what they're going to get. And we've landed in a place within them that they are curious about, that they have questions about, right? Like maybe they don't agree with something that is being said, or they had a different opinion prior to coming into the theater space with us. And then they exit maybe wanting to go and do a little bit more research or having a dialogue with whoever they came to the theater with or whoever they sat beside. I think those are also wins for us as storytellers, that all we want to do is tell the story and have the people leave with more curiosity than they came with, maybe an agreement in their own spirits about how they felt about a thing. I'm thinking about two audience members that sat in the front row and cried their eyes out during the show, right? Because something about it resonated with them. And there was, they left rejoicing, right? So I'm not completely aware of what moment kind of solidified it for them, but I know these are some of the reactions that I'm witnessing, from the stage. And it is all a part of the journey that we're walking together, us as the actors on stage and our audience as a part of this play, as a part of this storytelling. We're all taking this journey together, and we don't want to control how you feel. We want you to be lifted. We want you to be empowered. We want you to be curious, and even if you question a few things, we're okay with that too.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll say, like, as I'm absorbing and I'm watching, I'm enjoying. Again, like I guess the way that I was feeling that it was sort of different from other productions, and this is said with all love and respect. It had this almost this sitcom sensibility that was there that I really enjoyed. I'm like, oh, we have these music cues that's going into this next sequence. I'm like, what's going to happen next? And
Shout out to Crescent. She was incredible on the sound.
and I'm just enjoying it from that way, because it's for me. And I've seen all types of productions, but for me, it's like I'm enjoying this and absorbing this. And as I'm talking to people, just navigating through the world, like I mentioned that night to my partner, I was like, you got to go see this. We got to go back. You got to come with me this next time. We should talk about this. And I'm trying my hardest in that conversation not to spoil it, because I remember it so well, because it reminded me of something very digestible in that sort of sitcom and smaller format way. And it doesn't feel like I'm here for mostly like a 2-hour production. It's great. I enjoy it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I want to ask a little bit more about sort of your preparation for Margaret. I kind of skipped over that a bit. Were there like any inspirations or experiences that helped shape the portrayal that maybe you've pulled from? And talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Michelle Obama. So I spent a lot of time, I have read her memoir, have had a lot of opportunities to watch her speeches. Also, our dramaturg was incredibly resourceful, providing us information on previous first ladies, pivotal previous first ladies, let me say that. And even some women who pursue the high office of president. So she gave us some perspectives on who these women were and are, what their platforms were, and sort of like what made them stick out from the rest. So I kind of delved into that information, trying to ground Margaret. The play is wild, right? So, and comedy lives in the truths of our lives, right? That old saying, you laugh to keep from crying. And I feel like that's Margaret, right? She is doing all that she can, to not be in a ball, weeping in a corner. Like she really does stand above, the crazy mania that is her life
Yeah.
and her arrangement. Um, I also watched a couple of comedic films around politics. Veep as a TV show, I caught that. Primary Colors was one of the films that I caught. Just trying to soak up, as much of the world as I possibly could, so that I could sort of land in a place. And then the script gave me everything else I needed. Our director, Laura Kepley, was wonderful in being our guide in terms of the whole picture as well as our individual characters. So I, kind of grinded myself in those ways to kind of bring Margaret to life. And what's so beautiful about doing plays is that opening night is one show, closing will be a different. So I have all of these shows in between to continue to grow and deepen and broaden Margaret in more ways than I'm even anticipating. There are nights that things come to me differently or things that I'd like to try. And it won't come out of the storytelling much, but there are different intentions and objectives that I'm pursuing in those nights that are curious to me, that I'd like to pursue. So I'm really hoping that you and your partner come back, so that you can kind of check out what's new with Margaret and the other six ladies.
Oh, absolutely. That's on the list. And I am one of those people when I'm absorbing something, when I'm watching something, and I'm like, yeah, see where they made that small tweak, that intention slightly different. Yeah, she said it this way before. Oh, that's
Come
gonna
on,
be the
I see you.
so touching a little bit more back on the humor component, especially with, thematically, there are these points in it where it definitely hits on sort of women aren't getting their due, frankly, and sort of the way that politics, this country, all of these different things go, and that's fairly evident, and it's a farce, but it's fairly evident in sort of how things are structured. It's just like, this person could be the president. This person is actually doing a lot more work than they're getting credit for. And this person has to maybe do this power stance to feel like they're getting their due. And I know in different industries, there are times where we're presented as maybe less than. And so when we're, doing a presentation or even speaking on these subjects, sometimes it's just like, oh, I really feel this in this way, but we're able to maybe dull that down with humor. So how do you kind of balance maybe how you might connect to something and like, this is messed up, this is screwed up, but also I got to get this line out, I got to get this bit out. It's funny. How do you balance that?
We trust the script. We trust that the groundedness of the words. We trust our scene partners. We trust ourselves, that we're not just, out here trying to get those laughs, but we're actually trying to tell a real story about people.
Yeah.
These women all really kind of exist out in the world. It's an amalgamation of many different people where you can look at these women and POTUS, who we know.
It's good.
You guys will get it. You guys will get it when you see the play. But who we know, and we can kind of figure out, oh, he's like this person, and that person, political heads, in our real life.
Yeah.
These women are like this person, that we've seen, in the news. And so, or they're, a mesh of all of those. And so we want to tell the truths of their story, of their lives. And we don't want to water it down by just trying to get a laugh.
Yeah.
Like I said before, real life sometimes can be really hilarious because you have to laugh to keep from crying, right? So humor is always steeped in the truth and the truths of your story. And I feel like you don't have to reach very far to laugh at some of the things that these women are saying and that they're doing, because some of it is quite ridiculous. And it's meant to be laughed at, but it's also like, that's a thing that has really happened, and or it's a possibility that could probably happen.
Yeah.
And if it was happening in my real life, I probably would be laughing the same way. So yeah, I think it's a balance. We trust the words always. You trust the words, and you just out there telling that story. That's really what it is. You don't want to fake it. You don't want to fake it.
Absolutely. And there's three words that come to mind when I think of it, and this is a little bit of a teaser, but it's not really giving too much away. I just think of just three letters, really, not even words, just FML. Just think of those.
I mean, oh my gosh, like we could literally have a show of spoilers.
Literally.
Oh my God.
Patreon only.
Oh my God. Patreon only, friends. Join the Patreon. Because there's so many details are so intricately important to the story and to the things that happen in the story that I want to tell them all, but I can't. Y'all got to come see the show.
Yeah, look, you guys got to pull up. I mean, this is serving as like an additional trailer,
Come on, additional trailer. Yeah.
So, and this is sort of the last real question I got for you.
Sure. Okay.
And I have a couple, rapid fire ones I've been looking at.
Bring it on.
So, and we touched on a little bit earlier, sort of the timing of this production is coming out. And, as you were touching on a moment ago, as far as like where we're at now, early in sort of the arc, and there's multiple shows before the end of the arc, and then we have this race happening during this election here that could maybe serve as a bit of fodder and additional bandwidth there. How do you think the timing of this play of the message will kind of like align, and how do you see it perhaps resonating with people as we get closer and closer to that big day?
Yeah. They're gonna need to know. I want to say it so badly. They're gonna come into the space and they're going to make the connection between POTUS and what is happening in real life. And it's going to either, like I said before, make them more curious or make them be in agreement with some things they've been grappling with.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be like, because what we're saying is, again, not shaking a stick at any one thing or, idea. It's just making it be known. And either you're going to squirm in your chair or you're going to be like, I already knew that. I'm ready for it. Let's go. It's a perfect time. It's a perfect time. Like, I feel like what we're doing is supporting what is happening out here. And it's really going to, I want to say it so bad.
I'll say this. I think, and it's one of the things you touched on there a second ago. I think it's an invitation to explore further. And listening to some of the things in the play, that I was like, that's ridiculous. They wouldn't. Yeah, they did. They did that. And this is what was happening. And I would hope, folks going there, seeing it, having those laughs when you have a emotional response, one of those involuntary things, when like laughter is involuntary, so it's like, I'm not going to laugh at it. Okay, I'm laughing now. I can't stop it. I think that clicks, that happens. It's like, why did I do that thing I didn't want to do? Let me look into why I did that thing that I wasn't expecting to do.
Yeah. That's the curiosity popping up. That's the questioning. It's you're going to be bolstered. You're going to have some questions, or it's going to be in alignment with what you already believe. And I feel like, in this small way that I'm doing my part.
Yes.
I'm doing my part.
That's great. And that's a great spot for us to end on before we start just spoiling the whole thing. And we'll just sit here and just like, yeah, remember this part in the second half posing a mission, right? When it's like, all right, chill out.
Listen, we must figure out a way to do like a post show.
You got it. We can
blow up. Like, we really should have a conversation about it, because once it's gone, we could just And it's still so much time
Yeah.
before the, election where we'll have a lot of nice things to talk about. So
We'll have a part two, I think. That'll be
I
really
love
cool.
it. I love it.
Alrighty. So I got three rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
And as I tell everyone when we do this, like you're an actor, you get it. And I find like when I have these conversations with actors, it's always like just it's easy. My job is easy. I'm just sitting here trying to act like I ain't trying to fumble over my words again. Um, so here's the first question I got for you. Obviously, I enjoyed it. I attended on Friday. And POTUS is very funny. I like laughed a lot. And so I'm curious, how do you, or what's your go-to tactic not to break? Because there's a sequence in it when I would just say you're wearing yellow or a shade of yellow. And I'm like, how's she not laughing right now? Like literally, how is she not laughing? So what is that tactic for you? Like, how do you like, I mean, obviously being a professional, but how do you, stop from laughing?
Mostly because I'm in it. I don't even feel the need. It's when I'm off stage that I have no control. That I am laughing and I'm pinching myself sometimes. There are other ways of like, depending on how my body is positioned, I'm able to sort of be in a more uncomfortable way so that the laughter cannot escape my mouth.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have been to the show, or if you're coming, you'll notice something very specific about my costume. And it's not comfortable.
Mhm.
It's not comfortable. And so that allows me to stay in the space a bit more because I have to really focus on not being in that discomfort so
Yeah.
that I don't laugh out loud. But off stage is a different story, Rob.
That makes a lot of
these
sense.
these women are hilarious, okay?
Yeah.
And sometimes, I have to get it out. I have to get it out.
Like
Or it's when the crowd is laughing, that's the best time to do it.
oh yeah, it's just like yeah, I'm muffled. Like yeah, you're just drowned out by everyone's guffawing and chortling.
Exactly. I love that.
A
Yes.
few dollar file words of it.
Chortling. Come on.
So there's another thing that sticks out to me about the play is that and even the description I was giving when I was talking to my partner about it, it's very physical. There's a lot of movement. There is a whole segment where a lot of movement is happening by one of your castmates. I'm like, okay, we're out here. How do you like stay limber and stay loose between maybe scenes that you're not in, but you're going to be in coming up? And it's just like, all right, I don't want to like tear a hamstring or something, blow an ACL.
Yeah, that's really a great question, Rob, because a lot of people don't think that what we do is physical. It's both mental and physical. And so we do things outside of the theater to prep us to be on the stage. So I'm doing some exercise daily. I'm stretching. I'm so grateful for one of those massage guns. One of my castmates is so gracious that she'll show us different ways to stretch our body, but also several of my castmates and some of the designers that we worked with were trained in the Alexander technique. And it really does make you focus in on your body as your instrument, your voice, how to use your body and your voice. And but because of one of those costume pieces that I referenced earlier, I'm having to learn how to stand in my body, without it, without sort of compensating, hunching over or, shoulders up. So in between scenes, I'm really focusing on my core. Drinking a lot of water and we do like just little vocal exercises. Something that gets me going every show is my my little playlist I have, and I like to have a little dance party before every show.
Love that. So this is the last one I have, and this may relate to one of those articles of clothing that you're wearing or have you, or actually, a few of the articles of clothing that you're wearing. So they're very distinct in color. So I must ask, What is your favorite color?
Mm. I love most colors, jewel tones. So when the costume designer, David Burdick, brought the costume plot out for me, I was like, yes, yes, and yes. And he was like, you're not afraid of yellow? I was like, absolutely not. Like, it's the first time that I can remember. Yeah, like having such bright colors on stage, right? And so my favorite colors would be purple or like a magenta, fuchsia pink. I love blues and greens, but I live in any color of the rainbow. I give it to me. I'm going to do it. And, blessed with a little melanin, so we could do that. Hey!
I love it. I love it. And
Yes.
definitely there's a regality to your character, to your presentation, and the colors of what the wardrobe is just definitely accentuates that. So it's great.
Thank you.
And yeah, shout out to you. Shout out to this production. And guess we can close out there.
That's fantastic.
So
Thank you. So, can I say thank you, Rob? It's been a pleasure speaking with you and a pleasure talking about this production that brings me such joy, but also talking about some of the wonderful artists that I've enjoyed working with during this process has been a pleasure. So, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And there's two things I want to do as I close out. One, again, thank you. Graciousness is always important to just really articulate those things. And, I like being able to have an experience. So this, sticks out. It's very near and dear, not just because it's recent. It's just like, hey, I don't remember this play, especially in this year as well. And secondly, I want to invite and encourage you in these final moments to share with the listeners any of those final details, the last hard sell, if you will, website, social media, all of that good stuff for folks to come out, check out POTUS, and to follow you.
Awesome. Okay. So I would love for your audience to join us at Everyman Theatre between now and September 29th for POTUS, or Behind Every Great Dumbass are 7 women trying to keep him alive. We are every day of the week except Monday. So go to Everyman Theatre, that's THEATRE.org to get your tickets. Run now, because I've heard they're going pretty fast. Okay, friends? And I am on social media. You can find me at China with an I on Instagram. That's my favorite place to be. And if you come to the theater, please let us know you're there by laughing with your full body, speaking back to us if something feels good, or you have a question about something. Always works as well. And they always send surveys after you come to the show. Let the theater know how you feel about this production and how it spoke to you. We always want to hear what our audiences are thinking and feeling after they experience a piece of art on our stage. I think I have given everything to your audience. I am so grateful. I want to see you all there. Please, please join us between now and September 29th.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Chinai Routte. Go see POTUS, folks. But I want to thank Chinai Routte for coming on and sharing a bit of her journey with us. And for Chinai Routte, Everyman Theatre, POTUS, all of those good things that we talked about today. I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.